I got hands on a nice FJ Cruiser transfer case here, so we'll do a little overview. I'm gonna take this off for right now and put it here so you understand. The front of the vehicle will be here, your transition will be here, your transmission output shaft goes right into this transfer case input shaft. So anytime your transmission output shaft turns, it's gonna turn this. This is gonna do a couple of different things. If you're in two-wheel drive, it's just gonna go straight through. A lot of this stuff is gonna stay still. It's gonna turn right here on the output. And as you can see, this is actually in four-wheel drive already, but if it was in two-wheel drive, this chain wouldn't even turn. To do two-wheel drive, we'd actually need to move this shift fork forward. But to do that, we'd have to power this actuator because this is an electronic shift, right? So bear with me on this. This would be two-wheel drive. You'd just be turning this rear flange right here. We got a few things unbolted. That's two-wheel drive mode. This would go right back to the rear axle. All right, so if you look at that on a straight line like this, transmission turns the input, which will turn the output, turn the rear wheels. So logically, being four-wheel drive, let's say you want to put it in four-wheel drive. You put it in four-wheel drive high, this actuator, electric shift motor, push a button. If the conditions are right and acceptable, you push the button and it'll actually shift into four-wheel drive. So what that does, it's going to move this shift fork, which you can see some of the synchronizer parts. And this sleeve is going to come over here like this, actually in the position it already is, and it's going to engage this chain, and then this would be four-wheel drive right here. So let's just say for a moment that we had a problem with the transfer case chain. Maybe the chain is loose, and it's so loose it's slapping into the case. You wouldn't hear the loose chain in two-wheel drive because it's not spinning. When you put it in four-wheel drive, all of a sudden you get a noise. It could be something with the chain because the chain now turns in four-wheel drive high. But also, it turns this front output. So if this front bearing was bad, when you put it in four-wheel drive high, this bearing will start to turn, right? This chain is going to turn this front wheel output. So now I'm going to pick this up, right? This would come through the front of the case. You'd have this flange, which goes to your front drive shaft, which goes to your front axle. So I'll slide that on here, right? So this would start to turn. If this bearing was defective, it would make noise in four high and also four low actually. But if it starts making the noise in four high, we're kind of suspect of like the chain, maybe this front output, right? Then let's just say, and you do that if you were stuck, like let's say your rear wheels are spinning, you were a little bit stuck, you needed the front wheels to get you unstuck. So you're stuck, you engage the front, boom, it turns the front wheels, you're unstuck, right? But let's say different situation. You're off-roading and you want four-wheel drive, but you also want added torque because you're climbing a hill while off-road towing a trailer or a boat in the snow because you can, because America. You might actually want four-wheel drive low, right? So I'll pop this off for a second, slide these closer together. All right, you go for four-wheel drive low. First, you got to be in two-wheel drive in four high, right? So this is already in four high. A lot of times you got to go to neutral, put it in a four low. Four low, you have to be dead stopped. So that's a big difference, right? Two-wheel drive to four high uses this synchronizer assembly, and that's going to engage the front chain, the transfer case chain to the front output. Cool, you can do that on a roll. You want to go to four-wheel drive low. Four-wheel drive high first, stop. A lot of times you need to be in neutral for the four-wheel drive control module to even send a signal to this actuator. So if your four-wheel drive low doesn't work, you may not be having the right enabling criteria, such as 0 miles an hour, transmission in neutral, etc. When you go to shift into four low, it's not this fork. So this is the 2 to 4 fork. This is the 4 high to 4 low fork. This fork would move actually this direction. What that's going to do is engage this. And down in here, we got a planetary gear set. So this can give us our reduction. I don't know what the reduction is on this. It's probably ballpark 3 to 1, right? So when we engage that, what will happen is this will turn. Let's say it's a 3 to 1. This transmission output shaft, which turns this transfer case input, will turn 3 times, and that'll only make this front output turn once and this rear output turn once. So you're gonna have very high RPMs and you're gonna have very low vehicle speed, but you're gonna triple your torque, right? Triple the torque at 1/3 the speed. So if you were to do rough numbers, your engine makes 300, we'll go with horsepower even though it's not really torque, 300 horsepower or pound-feet of torque. Going through your transmission, if you're in first, let's say first is a 4-to-1, you're gonna make that 300 times 4, 3, 6, 9, 1,200 pound-feet, right? And that's in rear-wheel drive. Then in the rear axle, if it's another 4-to-1, you're gonna do another 4 times. So you can make a whole bunch of torque, whatever that number was. What do you say? 3 times 4, 3, 6, 9, 12 times another 4, 480 or 4,800 pound-feet of torque. And you're like, whoa, that's crazy. But then what if you did it like this? If you took your 300 in, put it in 4-wheel drive, but then you put it in 4-wheel drive low, and that's another 3-to-1 reduction. Now you've got 300 pound-feet of torque, 4-to-1 reduction in first gear, another 3-to-1 reduction in the transfer case, and then another 4-to-1 out at the axles. That's going to be, I don't even know, whatever that number is. You'll triple your torque if you're in 4-wheel drive low. So why do you go in 4 low? You go in 4 low if you need more torque. Then the positive is let's say this is 3-to-1, you'll triple your torque. If it's a 4-to-1 reduction, you'd quadruple your torque. The negative is first gear is going to be like 0 to 5 miles an hour. Second will be like 5 to 10. So you can't jump on the highway and put it in 4 low. 4 low would really just be for towing and off-roading at the same time or something like that. But here's what changes. Because we put in low, now we got this planetary gear set in here doing its thing. Like you can see, there's some planetary pinions in there. If we had a damaged planet pinion, it would make no noise in 2-wheel drive. It'd make no noise in 4-wheel drive high. It would only start making noise in 4-wheel drive low because that's when this stops spinning as an assembly. If you have this all spinning as an assembly, that broken tooth down in there on that planetary, that silver one right there, you wouldn't hear that. So let's say, here's how ASE would word it. ASE would say, there's a noise in 4-wheel drive low, but not 4-wheel drive high. I'd be all over the planetary gear set. Something's in that planetary gear set's messed up. If there's a noise that's only occurring in 4 high and 4 low, then I'd probably be all over like maybe this chain or this front drive. If there's a noise and it's both in 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, high and low, I probably more look at like this output right here, or really even the input. A lot of times we'll have some stuff going on, like there will be some sort of a bearing at the input. This bearing's in this housing, right? Another cool thing with this transfer case is it's got a pump. So you can see this pump is going to be driven anytime your wheels are turning. So this is really just a lubrication pump. Some transfer cases have a pump that generates pressure to apply clutches and stuff, but that'd be like an automatic 4-wheel drive. This is just old school. In fact, they even have one more old school where you're literally moving a shifter that'll move these forks. So if you wanted 4 high, you'd go ahead and you move the shifter for this fork. Now, if this fork was messed up, you'd have a hard time going between 2-wheel drive and 4 high. But if this fork was messed up, it'd be a hard time going between 4 high and 4 low. So there's 2 forks. But in this case, because it's a push button, that's going to send a signal to the ECU. The ECU is going to control the motor, and this motor is going to actually move these rails right here like this. This right here would be, I'm pretty sure, I can tell by the way that this comes through. I believe that this rail is going to be for 2 and 4, and this rail is going to be for 4 high and 4 low. So it's going to be like 2 different rails attached to 1 or 2 different motors. And then let's say some of the failure points, this bearing, different symptoms. The chain, obviously. You could have potential wear on the synchronizer hub, sleeve, the fork, both forks. You could have a leaking output shaft seal for the rear wheel drive, for the rear drive shaft, or for the front drive shaft. And then, of course, in this case, this is more of an activity of, assuming this form-in-place gasket, which this is most likely an anaerobic sealant, was leaking. If you had to do a reseal, they're not really all that hard to split. You're pulling the nut for the front flange, a lot of the bolts around the outside, and what else you guys pull? That's probably about it, right? A lot of times you have to have it in a certain position, so sometimes you have to put the transfer case in neutral to be able to split it, but it doesn't look like that's the case with this one. So it's not a real tough thing to take apart. The anaerobic sealant's special because you can apply it wet and it'll stay uncured until you bolt the case halves together and it squeezes all the oxygen out. Then it will cure. That's why it's anaerobic. So that's kind of a giveaway by the red sealant. I bet you it's anaerobic. So just keep that in mind. That's on the ASE sometimes. Other than that, yeah, maybe a planetary failure that would be noisy and 4 low only. And maybe even a pump whine, but noting that the pump doesn't spin with engine RPM. Pump's actually going to spin with vehicle speed. As you can see, I'm turning the shaft now. All right. If you're in neutral or stop, this pump wouldn't make noise. So things to consider for that ASE.